You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charline.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charline, and welcome to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Today we have in the studio Miss Ari Gold, and she is a money stylist. And we're going to be talking about wealth building, which is one of the pillars of our show. And one of the things that we like to discuss, we'd like our audience to have a breakthrough and be able to start building wealth through the channels of financial, through the channels of finance that they have available to them, and to see how they can create more finance. So welcome, Ari. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I love having you here. You know, the reason I wanted to have you here today was because I've always believed that, you know, the breakthrough to success is all in your mind. It starts there, and everything moves forward from there. And so I wanted to have you here to talk about that. How's that?
Great.
So now, being called a money stylist, what does that actually mean?
So there's two reasons that I call myself the money stylist. One is because for many years I actually worked in the entertainment industry doing costumes for movies, so I have a stylist background. But the sort of metaphor is that when you work with a stylist for clothing, or let's say for hair or for makeup, excuse me, that person brings out the best of you. They take into consideration your character, your personality, your likes, your dislikes, and brings that forward to make you the best person that you can be. And so I do that with my financial clients as well, because you can take two people who have the same interests perhaps, or in the same financial situation, and I wouldn't put them on the same plan because their needs are different, their end goals are different, their character is different, their personality is different. So I actually style each person's financial plan to the individual.
Oh, I see. I understand now. And so with that being said, what is the background that you have that supports your being a money stylist?
It's a very interesting journey. I have always been interested in finance since I was a little kid. I had, I think the first way I made money was selling seashells and sand to tourists on the beach.
Wow.
And then I took a step up to a nice lemonade stand, and then in college I studied economics, and then after college, when I started working in the film industry, I ended up in a position that was actually more of a project manager for the costume department. So I did a lot of the running the everyday, working with the money, doing the budgets, and to continue with my love of financial knowledge, I one summer decided I was going to get my real estate broker's license just to understand the real estate industry, which has been very helpful in working with clients who want to purchase a house. They're thinking, okay, maybe that's something they want to do, and I can give them real plans on, okay, this is what you need to do to prepare for buying a house. This is what you need to do once you start escrow. This is what you need to do when you close. Right. And then having all of this, knowledge just from self-educating, I started coaching colleagues and friends and watching their financial lives change. And so when I decided that was something that was so important to me, is to actually help people with their personal finances as opposed to helping the studios make a bunch of money, I decided that I was going to go out and do a certification program to really become a financial counselor. So okay. I'm a certified financial recovery counselor.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. What's the difference between what you do as a financial stylist and maybe a financial coach or a life coach, or, someone who coaches someone through like maybe a bankruptcy or something? What's the difference?
So with with what I do as financial coaching, I get more into the psychological aspects of why you do what you do with money.
That's right.
I go deeper. We look into like your childhood. Is there some programming that you're carrying through? Like you heard, certain things said over and over in your household as a child that you are carrying through as an adult in your subconscious that you might not actually realize. And there are studies that, or stories that, where kids watch maybe mom hiding a little bit of money away from dad, as her like safety net, and and the mom doesn't realize that she's imparting on her child that money is to be hidden and to be, as sneaky. You can only buy things, when no one's looking, and that might show itself in your present as an adult, as in, I go and I buy things and I hide them in the closet so nobody knows. Or, you might hear things as a child where parents say, oh, well, rich people are such jerks. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. And so that might carry through and as an adult, and you may do the, subconsciously be pushing money away because you believe, intrinsically that if you are wealthy, that you're going to be a jerk.
You're going to be a jerk, yes.
And so these are programming. They're money. They're things that are taught to us as children that we don't even realize that we're carrying through, and we want to identify them and then figure out, do we still actually believe this, or as an adult have we witnessed other things that totally negate these money stigmas that we've carried with us.
Right.
So,
wow, that's excellent. I have another question for you. Who are the types of clients that you would say come to you for assistance?
My clients are such unbelievably smart, creative, amazing people, and all it is that they weren't taught, financial responsibility as children. Like maybe their parents didn't think that they needed to teach it. Oftentimes schools don't teach it because there's, a disparity between like rich kids and poor kids. And if they bring that up, then there's, it can be very uncomfortable in a classroom. And oftentimes it just sort of gets glossed over. Everybody assumes that you're learning it, but no one's actually teaching it.
That's very true.
And so you have these really amazingly well-educated adults who, and people always say, oh, I don't understand. I can add and subtract and I should be able to do this. And it's not a should be able to do this. If nobody actually sat down and taught you how to do it, you're assuming that you should know how to do something that no one showed you how to do.
Right. And the thing I like about what you're saying is that this doesn't only have an impact on people who may not make a lot of money. This also impacts every economic level, really. Mm-hmm.
You can add a lot of zeros onto the end of your paycheck, but if you don't know how to take care of it, it's not going to make a difference. You live
paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly.
I've seen very wealthy people live paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
Where they pay their, bills, and at the end of the month, they're waiting for that next check to come in so they can start all over again because they've taken themselves to such, a financial obligation height that they are spending every dollar they make. And like you said, it doesn't matter how many zeros are behind it.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, clients that, make well over $100,000 a year. And then there's clients that make $30,000 a year. And oftentimes, just depending on their level of financial knowledge, somebody making $30,000 a year could actually be in a much better financial situation than somebody who's making $100,000 a year.
Right.
And it's all about
or $1 million a year.
Exactly.
Right.
It's all about what you do with your money and the knowledge that you have, that supports your habits about your money.
Exactly. And when you express that to people, it's hard for someone who makes maybe $30,000 or $40,000 a year to actually believe that someone, that's parallel to them in a financial situation could be someone that's a millionaire because they are not taught the correct way to handle the money that they are, what they're really responsible for.
And it's that same sort of thing, like, we all compare ourselves to everybody else.
Exactly.
But we don't know the big picture. We're only seeing a little snippet.
Right.
So, you can see somebody who's driving an amazing car and, living in an amazing house. But what you don't know is they are one missed paycheck away from bankruptcy.
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right.
I always tell people, you can't compare yourself to anybody else. You have to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, who you were 2 days ago, because the only control you have is over what you do and, where you're going with your finances. If you constantly are comparing yourself to somebody else, you're not doing yourself any favors.
That's very true. I have another question for you. How does money affect your physical health?
Oh my goodness. Incredibly so. A lot of people don't realize that there is this connection to health. Oftentimes people who are struggling with their finances are also struggling with health problems, be it weight problems or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, because financial problems often bring added stress.
Added stress, that's right.
To your body. And a lot of times too, when you are dealing with financial issues, you want to comfort yourself. And what do? We reach for, food that makes us feel comfortable. It's the same sort of thing as, people buying material things to make themselves feel good
better,
in the
right.
moment. So not only are you doing that, you could be spending and trying to make yourself feel better, but you're probably also reaching for, something, whether it's sugar or salt or whatever you can put in your mouth that makes you feel better. And that often leads to, health issues and just the added stress of, going, oh my goodness, when my paycheck comes this week, is it going to cover my bills? That stress on the body, it wears your body down, and the health problems will just start building and snowballing. So oftentimes when we see people get their finances in control, their health improves.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about when we're talking about wealth building, because there's more than one component and they're all related. So wealth is not only limited to how much money you have, but it also is inclusive of everything else in your life, including the way you interact with people, your health, your emotions. Everything is connected into what equates to what we call wealth. And so I try to make it a point to let our listeners know we're not just talking about financial, we're not just talking about your finance. We're also talking about every other aspect of your life that creates a successful person, or one that's considered wealthy is someone who has all of the dots connected, not just one or two. So, and what about on an emotional level? How are people connected to their money emotionally?
It's that sort of same thing I was talking about going back to childhood. You're connected to your money. You're taught certain things, and so you're emotionally connected to your money. So, for example, let's say as a kid, your parents didn't spend any money, and then what they did is they save until you went on vacation, and then vacation was this big, fun, free-for-all, and so now as an adult, perhaps you believe that spending money equals fun. And so when you go to try to, get your finances in order, and you start saying, I'm going to cut back a little bit, then you go, oh my gosh, I can't have any fun. There's not going to be any fun left in my life, because if I'm not spending money, I'm not having fun. And so you're emotionally connected to money via fun.
So money equals fun.
So in your head, money equals fun, and the lack of spending money means no more fun. And so what we would do is we would go, okay, well, I would sort of challenge that person, and I say, well, what is fun in your life? Like, tell me some fun things in your life. And most of the time, the fun things that they tell me are things that don't cost money, or things that they could do that don't cost money, but they have associated spending money with fun, even though it's actually not true to them, to their
situation. That's amazing. We're talking about wealth building today from a psychological perspective. And we have Ari Gold in, and I'm really happy you were able to come in. We've talked some on the phone, and we had a chance to talk a little bit before we started taping the show. And this is a very important subject, so I wanted to make sure that our listeners get the most out of your wealth of knowledge as possible. So I had a lot of questions today, and it was just a little bit more serious for me and more intense, because I really wanted to get as much of the knowledge out there as possible. So I want to thank you for coming in. Absolutely. And for sharing your knowledge with us. I think it's very nice of you. You don't have to. People pay you for this knowledge, and you're giving it to us for free. So I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I really do. Knowledge is to be shared, and I'm glad you are a part of those that have the knowledge that are willing to share it. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm passionate about what I do. I believe that everybody can change their financial situation no matter what income level they're at. Mm-hmm. And so, I want this information out there. I don't want it to be privileged information, you know.
So that wealth can be inclusive.
Exactly.
Instead of exclusive.
Exactly.